Hi guys, it's Jeff Brown, the photographer's mentor, and on today's live, I'm going to be talking to Michelle. Now, quite a few of you probably know Michelle from LinkedIn and from Facebook. She's the photographer's mindset coach, and she's a real expert, a specialist at helping us be a lot more positive, getting in the right frame of mind for our jobs. Now, one of the things Michelle is good at is helping you overcome imposter syndrome and self-doubt. And as creatives, this is something that plagues us a lot. And it can be a big problem because it stops us moving forward with our businesses, stops us achieving our goals. And ultimately, it's not really good for your mental health either, you know, your mindset, because you don't want to be constantly plagued by self-doubt and feeling that you're not in the right you're not in the right job, you know, you're not qualified for that job, or you're not good enough for that job. So I'm going to bring in Michelle. We've got a presentation. And feel free to ask questions as we go along. Pop them into the comments. I'll keep putting the questions to Michelle. And if you just tell me where you're watching from today, so just type in the comments where you're watching from. And also, have you ever or do you suffer from imposter syndrome and self-doubt? And it's nothing to be ashamed of. I have on many occasions and still do to this day. So I'm going to bring in Michelle now. Hi, Michelle. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. You?
Yes, very good, very good. So today's webinar is all about imposter syndrome and self-doubt, isn't it? So it's something that photographers, creative people do struggle with a lot.
Yeah, massively. We're one of the biggest sectors to actually struggle with imposter syndrome. And the other big sector is self-employed people. So we actually sit in two sections of imposter syndrome quite badly. So yeah.
And why is that? Is it because of our creative minds, or?
It's often because we, as photographers, we are obviously very heartfelt in our work. When what we're photographing and what we're doing, there isn't, although there is a standard in the industry, there isn't, I don't know the right word to say it. We're very, it's just our work. It's the stuff we're producing. It's the stuff we're creating. If you imagine you're a tax person, for example, you're an accountant, no offense to accountants, if any of you are on here, but you've got a formula to follow. You've had a degree in university and you know exactly what you've got to do, the exact formula you've got to follow to do the accounts, to do the audits, to do the things like that. Whereas as photographers, we're being asked to create something that's creative, that we see, that we're creating for our clients. And there isn't really a standard, you know, we do this, this, and this. So much of it comes from the heart and so much comes from our creative minds that actually we doubt ourselves more than the accountant that's literally following a sheet of paper and a set of rules.
Yeah. And I think another thing, you know, thinking back to Soren's just said there, you know, he's from Highlands of Scotland and he's had a lifetime of self-doubt. And I think, you know, just thinking back to some of the key moments in my life where I've really struggled with it. One of the big ones was when I was in military training to become a military photographer, and I was surrounded by other photographers, all on board the program, all on board the military training course, and I just looked at everybody else's work and thought, oh my God, they're much better than me. Why am I here? What am I doing this for? The amount of times I nearly quit, I nearly jacked in. You know, in fact, it was a 26 weeks course, and up to about 24 weeks. I was still ready to pack in because I was comparing myself to others too much. And even if somebody turned around to me and says, oh, Jeff, that's really, 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 really good. I really like that. I love it. You know, in the back of my mind, I was saying, they're just saying that. They're just saying that to make me feel good because their work's better than mine. And it's all self-sabotage, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And it's all linked. Your imposter syndrome, your self-doubt, your self-sabotage, your procrastination, everything is linked together. It's all part of it. And some of what we'll chat about today actually on the slideshow is looking at how it's all linked.
So do you want me to bring in the I'll bring in the slideshow for you, and I'll keep an eye on the comments.
No problem.
Brilliant. So if you want to take it away, Ines, I'll keep an eye on the comments there.
Okay, so we're chatting about imposter syndrome and self-doubt. I'm really sorry if the bird does squeak a bit, then I will move. So just let me know if she gets annoying. I'm currently animal sitting, so yes, she doesn't like me talking too loud. So the first thing I want to say to everybody is imposter syndrome is normal. You are not the only person that happens to go through this. You are not the only photographer that happens to go through this. It is 100% something that's within our body that's going to happen every time we go through our comfort zone change. Every time we challenge ourselves, every time we want to do something new, we are going to be hit with a level of imposter syndrome. So there's varying different levels of this, but it is normal and it is natural. One of the really good quotes I heard from a lady called Becky Rabin, I hope I pronounced her surname right, is if you don't ever feel like an imposter in your life, you aren't even scratching the surface of what you are capable of. And I think this is so true. If you're not feeling like an imposter at any point, you're not stepping out of your comfort zone. You're not pushing your work far enough. You're not pushing what you can do far enough. You are literally just staying in a very, very comfortable life.
And Charles has just said, to sum up, what is imposter syndrome? So what is the definition of imposter syndrome?
So imposter syndrome it's a psychological complex in which an individual doubts their accomplishments and has a persistent internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud. That is the official imposter syndrome statement, so to speak.
And what's the difference between imposter syndrome and self-doubt?
So self-doubt, you're not necessarily sat there worrying about being exposed as a fraud all the time. And it's also not because you're out of your comfort zone. Self-doubt is more from beliefs. So your self-doubt is something that will come up not just in your work, you'll find it will come up in your whole life, and it will be assigned with negative self-talk as well. So your imposter syndrome, they're very, very close. So it's really hard to define the two. But for example, I know I can have self-doubt leading up to a job that I do. But it's a job that I do a lot of. So for example, this weekend I actually did a wedding. Haven't done weddings for years. I do them very, very little. But in doing so, I also have about 12, 13 years of experience previously of doing weddings. So it's not a job that I feel I can't do, but yet I spent the morning feeling self-doubt. But I didn't feel like an imposter because I've been a wedding photographer. I've done it. I've done hundreds of weddings. Like, I know I didn't feel like I was going to get caught out being a wedding photographer. What I had instead was I haven't done this for a long time. Am I going to be good enough? Am I going to be able to handle this? Am I going to be able to handle that? And I didn't feel like a fraud. So it's the fraud bit, really.
Yeah.
That is the difference.
I think somewhere where a lot of photographers might be able to understand the difference between the imposter syndrome and the self-doubt. And this has happened to me numerous occasions until I started to really overcome it with actually a bit of sort of neuro-linguistic programming, a bit of training for myself, was in the studio when it came to sales. So I knew I'd taken really nice pictures, but it was the self-doubt I would get just before the couple sat down to start making a purchase. And then if I wasn't confident, if I wasn't exuberant confidence and like, you know, excited about my products and the stuff that I was selling, that would come through in my confidence. And because I was lacking in the doubt that they were going to spend the money to buy the product, and that quite often happened. You know, if you've had that similar experience, drop it in the comments. You know, do you experience self-doubt when it comes to the sales side of things? Because I think that can be a real problem.
Yeah, and it can happen in all sorts of parts. I see a lot of people have the self-doubt hit in social media posts and their marketing, and then they don't post on their social media.
LinkedIn is definitely one for that. You know, so many people, as you know, oh, I've had a LinkedIn account for ages, but I'm frightened to put myself out there on LinkedIn. I'm frightened to make a comment or post because people will think I don't sound professional enough. You know, there's this people believe that, you have to be a certain way on LinkedIn. You have to speak as somebody you're not. You go, oh, I can't speak like that on LinkedIn. I've got to be really professional. It's like you got to put a suit on to actually type on your social media. But it's quite the opposite, isn't it? On LinkedIn, people buy from people they like, and I always say, just be yourself. Put yourself out there, have your character, be normal. But a lot of people are terrified of the way they're going to come across and how others are going to view them.
100%. I mean, I'm dyslexic, and being dyslexic,
that's true.
I hate words. Yeah, I hate words, and I hate. And I have often had photographers go, how do you still post on social media? And in honesty, I do get people sometimes comment and say, you've spelt this wrong or you've done that wrong. But I always take a really deep breath and I remind myself that actually the issue isn't with me. I'm okay with me being dyslexic. That is part of who I am. And I would rather be posting stuff than not posting stuff. The issue actually comes from the other person, because they're the one that has an issue with people spelling things wrong.
Yeah.
And I always just put underneath, I actually just say to them, thank you so much for letting me know. I'm actually dyslexic and I couldn't see that issue at all. I mean, obviously nowadays we've got, these text things that help us, and Grammarly and stuff like that. But, there was points where we didn't. And I remember once having a lady storm into my studio because I'd spelt something wrong on a banner, and 3 people had checked it for me. But I thought, how sad and unhappy do you have to be in your life to come into a studio and yell at us from the door that we spelt something wrong?
Yeah. But you see it in, I remember it was only a couple of months ago I was on a train and I saw a spelling mistake, and I'm dyslexic. The funny thing is, I can see spelling mistakes and other stuff, but I can't see it in my own stuff. So I read over the top of my own mistakes, and I saw it on a banner on a train, Great North Eastern Railway, and I'm like, somebody's passed that in a marketing department, and it's actually on the banner and it was spelt wrong.
Yeah, we truly forget every single one of us is human.
Yeah.
And with our self-doubt and our imposter syndrome, we all forget we are human. It's like we're meant to be some machine that is perfect 100% of the time, and we're really not. And I think we are so mean to ourselves. And funnily enough, we're not mean to other people often. We're often just mean to ourselves.
Yeah. And I think some ways of getting over that sort of stuff is and I find it a real eye opener. Funny enough, I've just read a book by Simon Reeves, who's the BBC travel explorer, and I thought, God, I always thought he was really well educated. He'd obviously gone to Oxford or Cambridge or something like that, and I started, and I love travel, and I love expeditions and exploring and stuff like that. And when I listened to it, I realized that he'd struggled at school. He came out of school with no qualifications. He'd got in trouble with the law and stuff like that. Very similar background to me. Yet I'd believed that he was somebody he wasn't. It's really interesting when you listen to stories about people like Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger, all these famous people. How, yes, you might put them on a pedestal, but when you listen to their journey, they're all very similar to us. Everybody has their faults and their problems.
Yeah, there's a really good quote I remember reading. Or a statement, and I think it was in Rob Moore's book Self-Worth that I've read recently. I think it was his book, and it basically says, if you could see behind the scenes of everybody's life, you would be so less worried. It was literally something along those lines that he put in there about how just because we don't see it doesn't mean they don't go through it, kind of thing.
That's right, totally.
So yeah, it was fascinating. But yes, you are not alone. Imposter syndrome is actually a normal part of everyday life, and a minimum of 82% of the population has actually experienced it. And that is a minimum. That was statistics that I found. Everybody, pretty much, most of the population have experienced this at some point in their life. The problem is that every time we step out and step up and we try something new, we're going to be out of our comfort zones. And straight away, imposter syndrome is more than likely going to kick in. Especially, like I say, as self-employed and creative people, this can be often. For example, you know, if you're not used to doing a newborn shoot and someone asks you to do a newborn shoot and you're used to doing family portraits, then instantly that step up to the level of doing something like that is going to start, you're going to start questioning yourself. Oh my God, I'm a fraud. They're going to know I never work with babies, whatever it is. It's those kind of things that we're pushing ourselves to the next level. Even things like when we're doing competitions or qualifications or anything within our business, we're constantly pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone as photographers. It's a big part of what we do.
And I think the other thing as well is that, you know, I just had a comment there, you know, when it comes to the charging any amount for our services and products, we feel the need to be perfect. But then what we quite often don't understand is we might actually be perfect to our clients, you know, and a lot of, you know, we look for faults in our work as photographers because we are photographers, and then we're surrounded by other photographers and we're comparing ourselves. But quite often our clients will look at our images and go, oh my God, they're absolutely amazing, you know, because they don't look at pictures the same way as we do.
They don't. And also, they've booked you for a reason. They've booked you because they like you, and they've booked you because they like your work.
Yeah.
So if they've done that, they know what they're expecting to get, because that's why they've booked you. You know, I remember a story from a photographer many, many years ago. He used to have staff that were wedding photographers, and he said he got ready once to handle a complaint from a wedding couple because unfortunately the images that came back, like they didn't have the feet in, or they didn't have the heads in, or it just hadn't gone right.
Yeah.
And all they remembered when they looked at these pictures, they didn't have any complaints, because they just went, oh, that's when the photographer did this and that, and oh my God, he was so amazing. And they just remembered how they felt and experienced it. Whereas we'd be panicking if we cut something off in the middle of the knee or the middle of the elbow, or whatever we're not meant to be doing. But the clients, they're remembering being with you, and if they like you, then they're going to remember the feelings they felt during that time, not just, oh, well, they've cut my elbow off. I mean, they're never going to think that compared to us as photographers.
Funny enough, I once did a shoot for a bride, and it was our second wedding. And she told me a story after she come to collect the album. And she says, you know, she absolutely loved the album. What she loved the most was that the way that me and Kev, my ex-business partner, were with her and her family on the day, you know, because nothing was too much of a problem, you know. And we went out of our way to make that day a really, really special one. And she said her previous wedding photos from her first marriage were absolutely amazing. They were gorgeous, but they hated them because every time they looked at those pictures, they remembered what a pain in the backside the photographer was, how abrupt he was, how rude he was, how he told people to get out the way when he was taking photographs, you know, where I would always, you know, pose up the photo, take the family group, then I'd step away and say, come on, get it as well, you know. And, you know, and that's what they remember as well as the images, you know.
So it's not just all about your work at all. And, you know, the world of photography can sometimes be a little bit harsh, I think. When you're amongst other photographers, not always. You just have to find the right tribes. But yeah, it can be. Whereas your clients, they're booking you for a reason, because they love you. People want to work with people they trust and enjoy and that they like, and that's something that's most important to them. Okay. Right. So every winner was once a beginner, and every master was once a disaster. I love this saying.
Brilliant.
So everybody who now wins or you look up to, every single one of those people was a beginner. Every single one of those people has been through the imposter syndrome, has been through the self-doubt to be where they are now. You know, everybody who's a master of their photography, they had disasters, they had failures, they had things go wrong. They are completely human, just like us. And to get to be a master, to get to be a winner, to get to be a full-time photographer who embraces their work and is you will never get rid of imposter syndrome fully, but you will lessen the self-doubt. You will lessen it. And to get there, you know, you have to go through the failures, because every time you have a failure, you're actually learning. You know, I've done things like left my tripod at home before on important shoots. I've ended up using rocks as tripods. Like, I've learned to adapt. And it's those things that take you to the next level, because you have to learn to work without or with whatever the mistake was. And then you learn from that and you don't make that mistake again, or you know how to adapt if you do. And I think that's really, really important for us to remember, because when we come to having a failure, doing something that we feel we can't, we've done wrong, instead of being like, okay, what's the lesson here? What do I need to learn? And what do I need to move forward with? We all sit there in negative self-talk, saying to ourselves, I'm not good enough. I screwed this up. I did this. I did that. I did this. When realistically, you need to take a breath. And, you know, if you can make a note of this right now, when you make a mistake, ask yourself what you've learned and what you're going to do moving forward. Focus on that, not the beating yourself up with the negative thoughts, because you have to go through those failures to become a master of your photography, to become a master of your business, and even to become a master of your life. Because without failing, without things going wrong, you also don't know what you want in life. And too many of us use failure or things going wrong or things not working out for us, instead of looking at it and saying, okay, well, this didn't work out for me, but it's shown me that actually I want this, this, and this. We're just sitting there beating ourselves up constantly in our head. You're not good enough. You've screwed this up. You've done this. You've done that. And we don't let that go. And we don't allow ourselves to then change and adjust from the lesson. We just are not. We would never do it to our best friend. If we were sat with our best friend and they'd made the same mistake of us, we would never, ever be so nasty as we are to ourselves. We really wouldn't. And that's just something to think about.
That's true. And I think, and sometimes as well, you know, when it comes to, especially if it's a customer complaint, you can take it really bad. And, you know, I think one of the best things to do with, you know, like a customer complaint is obviously, what I found is to ask the person, you know, because sometimes, especially if you get that email in and it says, I'm not really happy, or you get a message and then it starts to escalate on your mind. You start to get a little bit defensive, but then you also start to get really let down, and you start to, you know, the imposter syndrome kicks in and the self-doubt kicks in. But then I've had that occasion where I've actually spoke to the client, and I remember being told to try this approach and says, I'm really, really sorry. I totally sympathize with what you're saying. What can I do to rectify this and to turn this around and make you really happy? And they went, oh, well, if you can just do this, we'll be fine. And then you're like, oh my God, you know, it wasn't actually that bad anyway, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. Just asking them what it really is and what it boils down to can be really, really powerful. So earlier you guys asked me a little bit about what the difference between imposter syndrome and self-worth was. Well, some of these phrases, most of these phrases actually will only be said by yourself if it's imposter syndrome. And you'll find yourself saying things like, I got lucky this time. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. The stars were aligned. It's just because they like me. It's not because I'm any good. If I can do it, well, anyone can do it, which is kind of true, but you don't say it in a positive way.
Yeah.
You say it in a very negative way to yourself. Oh, they must just let anybody in or hire anybody. Someone must have made a terrible mistake. I had a lot of help. I happen to just have the right connections. And these are the kind of things you'll say if it's imposter syndrome. Whereas if it's self-doubt, you'll be saying things like, I can't, I won't. You're not kind of saying, you know, you're just lucky or you're in the right place.
Yeah.
You're actually literally saying to yourself, I can't, I won't, I'm no good, rather than making excuses in the way you're making with this if you do get something. So, yeah, let me click on. So, like I say, imposter syndrome is going to be around. You're going to have it no matter what is normal. But what you need to do is actually use it in the right way. So rather than use the feelings of, so the best way, is to use the feelings of imposter syndrome to actually drive you to do the best job you can. Use the feelings to drive you forward instead of letting them overwhelm you. You have a choice to really breathe and let the feelings fill you with either anxiety and fear and stopping you from taking on the jobs or dreams you want, or to channel it to power you forward, taking the feelings, changing them and using them to become the best version of you can. Because anxiety and fear are very close to excitement. They're very similar feelings. And although you may not believe me, it's very easy to switch between the two because they're that same sort of built up energy that you have inside of yourself. And if you use the feelings of imposter syndrome and the anxiety to say to yourself, I'm going to focus on doing the best job I can because I care, and imposter syndrome is showing me that I care and that I want to do the best I can physically do. So I'm going to use this energy to focus, to plan the shoot, to plan the marketing, to plan whatever it is that you're doing so that I can do the best job I can do. I'm going to research everything I think I need to research for this job. I'm going to go on Google or Pinterest and look for ideas of images that I think are going to work for that client or the shoot I'm going to do. And this is exactly what I do with my imposter syndrome. I started photographing cars very recently, and I've only ever photographed bikes. Cars kind of scared me because they were big and they're very, very reflective. And instead of letting my anxiety and fear kind of swallow me up and lying in bed, hiding underneath the covers, allowing myself to get, so I'm just moving my legs gone to sleep, trying to get, hiding from life and going, no, I'm never going to do this. I started to use the energy by researching how cars would be facing. I went and looked at how people position cars, if they shot them on the front, if they shot them on the side, where are the tires? And I started to almost replace those negative thoughts with a focus on something else, with a focus on doing the best I could physically do within that shoot and just focusing on the shoot itself and nothing else around it. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but I'm hoping it does to people. But it is a choice. It is a choice to allow your anxiety to really overwhelm you, or to take a deep breath. And I mean like one of those deep breaths, like from the bottom of your lungs, letting all the negative air out and going, I'm going to use this energy, this feeling to be the best I can be for this client. I'm going to use it to push me forward and to make me want to do the best than I am to sit here beating myself up.
And you know what, you're totally right. And I think for me, where you said that, the comparison between fear and excitement is, and you'll know this as well, because I know that you do workshops and you do public speaking as well, and that, yourself just before you go on stage is, I get it. And you'll get that little sort of like the hands start to get a little bit sweaty no matter how many times you've done it. And you get that little feeling in your stomach. And what I tend to do is take a deep breath and I slow my breathing down, and I can feel that feeling in my stomach, and I sort of like tense my stomach when I go onto stage. And I use that, take that deep breath so that my initial first speech can be quite powerful and come out. And then you tend to find that you start rolling on the excitement of delivering it. Then you don't let that come out as fear, you let that come out as excitement. And it's just turning it around. I learned that on I remember listening to audiobook, how to overcome that and do that, and years ago, I would never got up on stage. I would have been, I am such an introvert. And, even in school, when the teacher you had to put your hands up to answer a question, I'd go purple, really bright red. And I hated standing up and answering questions, to now where I love it. I love putting myself out there.
And it can really change your feelings. although you feel like you don't have control of them because we're taught we don't have control of them, we actually have more control of them than we think we do. And we can change them. They are changeable. But yeah, I completely get that. The stage thing was weird for me. I was really nervous on the first one I ever did, that I was shaking from head to toe. The minute I started talking, I was absolutely fine, but my body still wouldn't stop shaking, which annoyed the hell out of me, because I was like, I'm fine. But it was just the adrenaline in your body. And yeah, your adrenaline from fear and your adrenaline from excitement are actually quite similar. So you've got to work it a different way. Now, I have to admit, I'm okay with stage. I'm okay with photography in some ways once I pick the camera up. The minute I pick the camera up, nothing else exists in this world.
You know, when you come to, I remember coming into, you know, doing a sales session with clients as well in the studio after we'd done a boudoir shoot. That was one of the things that I did, which I learned about the NLP for sales, you know, is prepare yourself, look in the mirror, say, yeah, they're going to spend a fortune. You know, I'm really good at, they're going to be over the moon. And then take a deep breath and then go into the sales room prepared, ready, and confident. Because if you go in shy and relaxed, you know, shy and sort of like withdrawn in that, and then somebody, when it comes to price, and you go, well, about £100, or oh, well, it's, you know, you're coming across from a very weak point of view, especially when it comes to the sales process, and the client can sense that, you know, so then think, oh, hang on a minute, well, yeah, I'm going to be able to badger this person down. Yet you look at some premium brands, and you look at the, you know, premium car dealerships or premium clothing shops, you know, they're very bold on the price, and they're like, it's this price, sir, you know, and that's it, you know, and they have that air of confidence, and you just, oh, right, yeah, hand over the money. So I think there's a very similar thing that you can do with the selling side of things, and it's a lot to do with, if you're confident and believe in yourself, your customers are going to be confident and believe in you as well.
The world can only value you as much as you value yourself.
Totally. Yeah. It's brilliant.
100%. So here's a few things I want you to think about trying to do. So one of the first ones is stop comparing yourself to others in an unbalanced manner, especially if you're trying to compare yourself to a photographer who has been shooting for 50 years when you may have only been shooting for 1. If you really want to compare yourself to the photographer you were a week ago, a month ago, a year ago, and see how much you've developed and learned. Because you and your business should only be compared to who you were a year ago. And you should be building your business to be better every day, your photography to be better every day. But it's not going to be the level of someone who's been doing it necessarily every day for 50 years. They've just done too many hours compared to you. And if you really, really have to compare yourself to a photographer, look at the photographers that have only been doing it within a year, the same as you. But it's best not to, because they'll have their own style and their own work. See success as progressive tests rather than destinations. So try and look at success not as a destination of where you're going to finish or where you're going to arrive. Just see them as progressive areas within your life, progressive parts of your journey, rather than a destination. Know that nothing you achieve or do actually defines who you are. You are you. Whether you achieve a gold award, a silver award, or no award, you are still you. It does not define who you are, who your personality is, who your clients think you are. You know, if you want to achieve, I don't know, if you achieve £1 million house or you achieve £100,000 house, it really doesn't matter, because you're still you. You could live in a cardboard box and you would still be you as a person. But people keep thinking that things they achieve, things they have, or things they happen to do define them. And it really doesn't. Being dyslexic does not define me. It's a part of me, but it doesn't define who I am. It doesn't stop me from posting and being me. The world needs your skills, and your talents. So stop denying people of them by self-sabotaging. Stop. Everybody relates to somebody different. I can teach this mindset stuff. Somebody else could reteach this mindset stuff. I've read several books on similar subjects, and it just so happens that one author has managed to say it in a way that's clicked. Same with photography. Everybody will click with a different personality of a photographer, a different style of photographer. Your skills and talents are needed within the world. Get clear on your vision and how you want to be remembered. Really sit down and understand who you want to be, because when those imposter syndrome feelings come out, the self-worth, the self-doubt comes in, if you know where you're heading, you have a much better chance of not fighting them, but moving forward from them and not letting them hold you back, because you can remind yourself of your vision and why you're doing it. One of the things I do a lot is, if my inner voice gets really, really loud, I start writing it all out to get it out of my head. And often when you read it back and you say to yourself, would I say this to my best friend? Would I say this to my work colleague? Most of it will be no. I personally also burn it. I feel that burning the thoughts kind of like is a bit therapeutic, and it lets it go. So I've got a fire pit in my garden, and I go and light that up and burn it out. Don't burn it in your kitchen underneath a fire alarm, and say Michelle said so. But yeah, do something outside and just get rid of it. Just get rid of it. Understand and try and remind yourself that nobody knows what you are thinking or feeling inside. Nobody knows what you're feeling. Just like you don't know how anybody else is thinking and feeling. That person across you that's, say, and I'm going to go extreme here, that person that's angry, the other side of the counter or whatever, we don't know what they've been through all day to make them like that. They're probably not angry with you. They're probably angry with someone else, but yet we take it personally, and then we allow it to affect our own self-worth. You do not know how they're feeling inside and why. Most of the time, and I'd say 99% of the time, that person's feelings is something to do with them, because most of us are living in a world worrying about us or worrying about what other people think about us, and not actually worrying about what that other person did. So try and remember that if you can. Practice owning, thanking, and being grateful for your achievements and successes. Too often, we let our successes, our achievements, what we do, we kind of say to ourselves, as we were chatting about with the sayings for imposter syndrome, oh, I was just lucky. Oh, well, I've just done that. Well, that was easy, but this is harder and I haven't got this yet. We forget to celebrate the little successes, and we kind of run off looking for the next shiny thing, thinking that the next shiny thing is going to get rid of our imposter syndrome. The next shiny thing is going to help us feel worthy. When actually those things, those successes, those achievements, if you don't feel worthy inside and do the work, and I wish I could tell you in an hour I could give you all the work to do, and I honestly can't, but if you don't go inside and understand why you feel the self-worth, what your beliefs are, and really work through all of that, you will never find an achievement that will fulfill you. So step back and celebrate every achievement. Even if you do it with cake and a donut, or you do it with a walk, or you go and watch your favorite movie, whatever it is, remember to share your success. I know in Jeff's amazing membership group, he makes sure we remember to do this. And I've got my membership group that I also have a weekly success post where we write all about our successes down, so that we're remembering to own them, because it really is important.
And I also, I recommend, and I think I've said this to you before, when you have your money paid from a client, have a reward account. And I have a reward account I've got an app on my phone called Moneybox, and I've got about 7 different accounts in Moneybox, and one of them is a reward account. So if a client pays me, say for example, £1,000, then I will put money away into my tax account, money away into my savings account, then I'll put some money away into my reward account. And that might be a fixed amount, it might be 2% or something like that. So I might put 20 quid into this reward account. And then when I've achieved something, like I've written a book, or I've written a new workbook, or I've delivered a webinar, or something that I've been working up towards, then I'm allowed to go into that reward account and take something out to buy myself a new coat, treat myself to a weekend away, go out for a really nice meal, something like that. So I celebrate the wins and treat myself to something I want.
Yeah, and it's just such a brilliant thing to do. I think it actually increases our self-worth, and it reduces the self-doubt when we remember to celebrate ourselves, because we remind ourselves that we are achieving things and that we are getting things done. And I really, really do think it's so, so important. Know that you're not alone. So many of us really, really do believe that it's only us, because we are only in our own heads. And we are the only people struggling with self-worth. But I promise you, most of the people you see on social media that don't look like they are either have done or are. And it's an ongoing process working on your self-worth and your beliefs. It's not quick, which we talk about in a minute. So these are just some ideas of things to do which will help you along the way.
And I think there's a comment there about client budget. I think sometimes that is one of the things that it's hard when you're struggling for money, and it's hard when you first starting out and you're needing to get the money in. But I think one of the things about, when it comes to budgeting and then cutting your prices and reducing your prices to try and tempt clients, that is really bad for your mental health. That's really bad for your self-worth. I personally would rather let the client go and not work with them, and use that hour or 2 hours that I might have been paid, that they were offering to pay me £100 or something like that for a shoot, use that time to spend with my family, or to do some more marketing towards my business. Because for every client who doesn't value you, there are probably just as many clients who will value you. And it's down to the brand and the message that you're putting out there, and that you're not targeting the right people. It's got nothing to do with the way your photography is, and you've probably had this yourself as well, Michelle, where, sometimes you can prejudge a person and think, oh, they're only going to spend that much. I was talking to a client about this yesterday, and, somebody pulls up at their studio, battered old car, and then spends £2,500 because they have a high value on photography. Other people might have a low value on photography. I've got a friend who's a multimillionaire, and he would not buy anything more than 5x7 in a desk for him to go in his office. He puts fine art on the walls. He thinks photographs of his kids are tacky. He would put a photograph of his dog or his horse on the wall, but not a photograph of his children, because he doesn't have that as a priority, where you have other people who do. So it's quite often it's about choosing the right clients and then sacking the ones who don't have the budget, and using that time that you would have spent with them to work on your business or spend time with your family.
Just remember, every time your money, you're basically exchanging for time. Yeah. And you have to remember that. And it's time that you could have with your family, have with your, you could go out for a walk, you could do other things. But if you're really not valuing yourself, if you're allowing, time is limited, money is not limited.
Yeah.
And you really have to think about, what is my time worth? Because for every hour they get of my time, that's an hour of my life that I'm giving away. And we don't have long lives. We are literally giving away an hour of life.
Yeah.
And yes, it's hard when a client doesn't have the right budget. But just like Jeff says, it's often the marketing. And I would ask yourself as well, are you opening to too many clients or niching down? Because when you become a specialist, price is never as much of an issue. If you were going to a surgeon and you say had, and this is extreme, but a heart issue or something, would the money be an issue? So would you choose to go to the doctor who was a normal doctor, or pay extra to go to the doctor that was a heart surgeon?
Yeah.
Like, what would you do? You would go to the specialist. And I know that's an extreme example, because it really is.
Yeah.
But it is the same thing. Price is less brought up when you're a specialist in something.
You know, and the funny thing is, I've had, you know, because you think, the other thing is, you know, photographers think, oh, well, my work's not good enough to charge that. Now, I'm in the very fortunate position within my job is I get to work with, I work with photographers in 20 different countries around the world, and some amazingly talented photographers. But I have seen some amazing talented photographers tell me how much they're charging for something they do, and I'm like, oh, wow, no way. Like, you're worth 20 times that, you know, and they haven't had the confidence to charge for it. Yeah, I've had photographers who, you know, have got the branding right, the marketing right, they've got that confidence, and they might have even been in the job that long, but they're charging more than some of these other people. So remember that the clients aren't looking at your work as a photographer, they're looking at your brand. And also, you need to be marketing to the right sort of people. And, you know, so don't think it's to do with your photography skills. It's to do with your brand and the type of people you're trying to attract.
Yeah, 100%. And if you value yourself as well, you have to value yourself and your time, which is obviously all part of this self-doubt side of things. You really do. And I know what it feels like. I've been there. I've 100% been there with clients that haven't had the budget. I've been through all of this. I do promise you are not on your own. Imposter syndrome affects us the most when it's backed up with self-doubt and negative self-talk. So we can usually handle imposter syndrome. It's part that's, like I say, is actually built in us to hold us back in our comfort zone, because when we were many moons ago, we needed to question ourselves. We needed to question what we could do so we could stay safe, so that we weren't going to get killed by the lion if we stepped out the cage, the cage, not cage. What is it? The cave. Many moons ago, there would be times when we would have to question stepping out of our comfort zone. And this is where the negative thoughts come from. But the fear and feeling of being a imposter is quite normal. The problem's here when you get the layer of imposter syndrome on top, which brings in your negative self-talk and brings in your self-doubt, lack of value. And then all three come together, and it's like a little bomb. It's like a little mix of a time bomb. So we need to work on all three of these things. And really, like I say, the imposter syndrome is probably the least worry of it, but it has become a very, very, what's the word? It's when something comes popular. Imposter syndrome has suddenly become a really popular name to say.
Trend,
it's like, yeah, trend. It's like it's become a trend. But the self-doubt and negative self-talk underneath is what is sort of making it so much bigger than it needs to be. And that's when we feel at our worst. When we let it become a reason to fail, a reason for not doing something, or when we find ourselves constantly being stuck in a level of anxiety, which will affect our lives permanently. Because when we're full of anxiety, we are full of chemical reactions within our body, which means we are full of stress, which will actually make our bodies ill. So we will start having many different illnesses if we live in anxiety all the time. It will also help us to procrastinate. It will reduce our focus. There are lots and lots of things that will happen because we're stuck in this level of anxiety, stress, negative self-talk and negative self-doubt, which is great, Michelle, obviously, but how do we change it is probably more what you want to know. But I want you to understand a little bit more about self-doubt and self-worth first. So as humans, we're actually conditioned to look for the negative in all situations. And we're going back to that millions and millions of billions of years ago, many moons, where we would need to look for the negative around us to save our life. Anything that looked out of place could be something that's going to attack us. A new person coming into the group could be a bad thing, so we had to be wary. we were conditioned to look in the negative. We make non-events far more negative than they are. We question, why did I say something to that person? What if I said the wrong thing? What if they didn't like us? What if? All of those things when that person probably isn't even thinking about us 5 minutes later.
Mm-hmm.
It all comes from our old need of survival that we used to have. But it doesn't give us happiness or inner feelings of being good enough. It just makes everything negative. If you have lack of self-worth and self-doubt, you are not broken and you are not damaged. You just need to start changing your perception, which will instantly start changing your reality. And like I say, the problem is it's so in deep with us in how we should be, that it will not be easy to change. But we have to change it. We need to change it for ourselves. If we want to be happy, if we truly want to be happy, then we need to make the changes and we need to change how we look at things. The problem is our brains will show us exactly what we think. So without going massively deep into brains, we basically, let's just go with the two sections of brains, the conscious and the unconscious. We have built beliefs throughout all of our lives. I'm not good enough. It could be something that someone said to us as a 5-year-old, and actually it was never true. But somebody said something to us, a 5-year-old, anywhere up to 8 usually. 8's about the time when we've taken on a lot of our beliefs. And somebody says something to us, and we hold that belief and we repeat it to ourselves over and over and over again, which expands a neural pathway, which I've got on a different slide. And it becomes an unconscious thought, a bit like driving to work every day. When you drive to work every day, sometimes you get there and you think, how did I get here? I just drive. I don't remember the drive. Because unconsciously you take over, you do that path every single day. Now, when you have this belief for every single day, it does the same thing. It takes over. And your unconscious brain and conscious brain can only take in so much information a day. And we have, imagine, with the amount of adverts we go through, the amount of stuff on social media, the amount of stuff everywhere that we have to contend with. Now, basically, our brains will look for things that prove our beliefs correct. So if somebody says to us, I really love your work, but did you notice that dust spot on that image? Your brain will actually filter out the I really love your work and will only hear you've made a mistake on your work with a dust spot. That's all your brain will hear because it aligns with what you believe inside. Your brain won't even bring it in. It's a bit like, I don't know if you've ever tested it, but if you haven't, please do test it. When you really want to buy a car and you think, oh, I really want to buy a red car and I want to buy this type and I never see it anywhere and it'd be really cool. And the next minute, every other car is this red car, 4x4 car you've never seen before. And basically you've said to your brain, I've fallen in love with this car. This car is important. So your brain is now filtering through the information that we have all day and going, oh, this car is important. You need to see that. And there's another one. And there's another one. Because this is important to you. And it's the same with the beliefs. And it's the same with the self-doubt. If you truly believe you're not good enough, your brain will go, oh, that's the information we need to show you. They're not good enough. That's the information we need to pull in because she's not good enough. If you had more of a confidence way and you went into, say, a meeting and or one of those networking things, and you were focusing on a really good opportunity in a positive way, and you wanted to get more clients, your brain would filter the conversations in the room so you heard the one that was looking for a photographer. If you go in that room feeling very negative, no one's going to want to speak to me, I'm going to talk to people and I'm not going to get on with them, your brain is actually going to bring you to the people and it's going to hear people that you might not get on with.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely crazy, but it's literally trying to filter through the massive information we have all day and bring the stuff that aligns to what you believe. Which is why evidence keeps showing you up, because you don't stop and recognize that actually the stuff that shows you are worthy, like the client that sent you a card and a box of chocolates because they were so grateful for your work, they're the ones you need to remember. And the best way of starting to see this is to start opening your awareness, which takes time. But when you can, be aware of your surroundings and open yourself up. If somebody sends you a card and a box of chocolates, cut the front of the box of chocolates out and the card and stick it on your wall next to your computer. So you're constantly looking at it and reminding yourself, I'm a good photographer, my clients like me. Give yourself better triggers, give you an awareness, or put it literally next to your bed and pick it up and read the card every day as a way to change those pathways and a way to change your brain. I actually read my plan for my dream life. So I've got a dream life worksheet that my members, paid members, do in the membership. And I basically give them the task. And once they've written out a paragraph, and I call it a dream life, not a dream day, because I don't think as photographers we ever have the same day repeated over and over again. There are some jobs you do, but we don't. So I like to look at it as an overview rather than a specific day, because I think it changes too much. I read that every morning, so that every morning my brain wakes up and understands what I'm looking for from the day, because I am looking for everything in that statement that I read. So it's at the front of my brain's awareness, so it can then bring me those experiences in. And it's the same thing with the self-doubt. I actually have a poster on my wall, framed next to my bathroom entrance that says, I am enough. And every time I walk into that bathroom, guess what I look at and I say to myself every single time? Yeah, I am enough.
A similar one, you only get one life, which is behind me there, next to the lamp you can see. And that's a positivity sort of poster.
Yeah, because the more you repeat it to yourself, the more you build a neural pathway that you are enough, and the more your brain will look for examples. And it was hard to start with. I can tell you 100% the reason I'm teaching this is because, oh my God, have I suffered with self-doubt and self-worth and imposter syndrome. I've suffered with it so much. And I'm not going to lie to you, there are days I still do. I don't think I think it is a work in progress, and you're going to have days that hit you. But then I turn around, I read my dream life again. I have these things in place that super, super help me to overcome it, rather than fall into the black hole almost. The self-doubt and negative self-talk takes you down, because it really, really does take you down instantly as well, which is such a shame. Your self-worth and beliefs. So I'm going to bring beliefs into it. Now, I know we're talking about self-doubt, self-worth, but what you actually believe affects your self-doubt and self-worth. So there are many, many layers to this. These are your foundations. They're the foundations of how you work, how you feel every day, and whether you're chasing opportunities or running away from them. So you wouldn't build a house on sand. So why do we avoid working on our self-worth and beliefs? And why do we not question the things that we do believe? Because they are our foundations of our house. They are the foundations of our lives. They are what affect every single day. And we tend to look at, and yes, there are other things. There are the marketing, there's social media, there's accounts, there's pricing, there's sales, there's photography, there's all these sections. But all of these sit on top of your self-worth and your beliefs. Because without having the belief you can do it, you won't make your way through the number of failures you need to go through in a business to come out the other side an expert. Because you will allow the self-belief and the self-worth to pull you down, and stop you from having your life, the dream you want and the happiness you want. It will actually stop you. So you really do need to spend time, just like you spend time training on your photography, just like you spend time reading your marketing books and your other books, really understanding who you are and questioning what your beliefs are. A lot of people believe beliefs aren't changeable, but they truly are. We can change a belief. You know, a long time ago, we thought the world was flat. People now believe it's round. Is it? I have a question for you. Is it round? Who knows?
It's big.
It's big. You know, it's funny because we used to think it's flat and now we think it's round, but does science really know everything yet? Question for you. So beliefs can change. And looking around us in our world today, I want you to be more aware of how our world, so we've been over how our internal self works with self-doubt and how it was used as a survival mechanism many, many years ago. So now I want to look at current world today. And unfortunately, our world is filled with so many ways to make us doubt ourselves. And you only just have to look around at the various industries, advertising, for example, the beauty industry, cosmetics, fitness industries. You see it everywhere. People earn off of our self-doubt. But we need to start questioning these things, and we need to ask ourselves if it's really true. Then we need to write down and repeat what is actually true. So say your truth is there is a lack of money. Say that's your belief. Your belief is there's a lack of money. I would ask you, is it true? And you'd start off by going, well, yeah, because I don't have any. Well, okay. And my friends don't have any. Well, okay. And people are always complaining about money. Well, okay. But is it actually true? No, it's not. If you go to a shopping centre and walk past one of those really, really expensive watch places, there are watches for like 20 grand, even more than that. I shot a car the other day that was worth 150,000. You know, if you really, really look around, I watched a programme called Christmas, The Most Expensive Christmas, I think it was called, many years ago. Right. The cracker presents, the things that go in the crackers, were car keys for cars. Car keys, guys. They had decorators come in and decorate their Christmas tree with £2,000 baubles. And when I say £2,000 baubles, I mean per bauble.
Wow.
Just in case they happened to be in London for Christmas, when they weren't even sure they were going to be back for Christmas. Wow, there is money everywhere. Everywhere. And I'm just showing you an example of a belief. Obviously, the other beliefs are, I'm not worthy. Well, go and look at some other photographers that maybe are making money. It's kind of hard. You have to know that they're making money to make it to. But you know, you can look at some of the richer people and see that money is actually about. It is there, but your belief of not having money will stop you.
Yeah.
Just like your belief that you don't value yourself, just like your belief that you're not good enough, all of them will stop you from having those things. So, what is your belief? Is your belief really true? Find the evidence for that belief, and then write down the opposite. So that's the write out and repeat the opposite. There is no money. No, the belief is not true. The evidence is that Christmas program and people buying expensive watches, cars. I mean, literally go and look. You'll see so many. If you go into a place in London that you know is a high-end street, go and look and watch people at tills spending money. Yeah. And
I think, you know, that's a common belief, and I don't know if people want to put that in the comments as well. But you know, I've heard people say, who've come on board my program and say to me things like, yeah, Jeff, yeah, it's all right. But, you know, if you're working with photographers in London and Paris and New York, but where I live, people don't have any money. And I said, that's rubbish. You know, there will be people in your area who have a lot of money. Yeah, every you know, town, every city has its affluent areas, and it has its not as affluent areas. And it's making sure that you target the areas and the people. And obviously now, you know, things have changed. You know, with things being online, we're not always looking for somebody on our doorstep. We'll travel. We'll travel to get to a specialist. We'll travel. When we had the boudoir studio, we had people, we were in Sunderland, but we had very few clients from Sunderland. We had clients from London, Glasgow, Edinburgh, people, because we were specialist boudoir studio using MAC makeup, then people came for the hair and makeup and the boudoir photo shoot.
I had people that moved away or just knew of me, and they would travel 4 to 5 hours. They'd make a weekend of it to come to my family portrait studio when I had it. They didn't care. They were coming to me because they liked, they trusted me, and they loved my work.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, it is. And not just that, like when you see like you say, people haven't got money around you, a lot of people in London have second homes in places that you perhaps wouldn't think had as much money. Like I know one of the villages down the road from me, and I only know because I saw it go up for sale and people were like, oh, that was so-and-so's house. So I know there are famous people who've got houses around here. So yeah, so it is a self-doubt, self-worth thing. The money is the same. Money is part of our self-doubt and self-worth. So as I discussed the unconscious brain and the conscious brain earlier, over the years, we've built these pathways to our brain that have gotten stronger every time we have a thought or belief. So basically, just imagine like, imagine a roll of cling film. This sounds really weird. I've just made this up in my head. And each time you have a thought, you add an extra layer of cling film on. So it makes that cling film roll have more and more cling film and it's stronger. I couldn't think of anything else to do, but it could even be like something you glue and you paint glue on it. And then every time you have a thought, but it gets stronger every time we have the thought. Now, new pathways can be built. This is one of the things they used to say. They used to say we can't change our beliefs and we can't change our thoughts and we can't have new pathways, but it's actually not true. New pathways 100% can be built and old ones can disappear, but it does take time. And we really, really need to understand that working on our beliefs and self-worth, when we start uncovering the first layer, we'll need to uncover the second layer and something else will trigger us and we'll need to work on that layer too. It is a work in progress. You start by questioning your beliefs and you start by questioning your negative mindset talks. Now, I have on YouTube a negative self-talk video that's about an hour long, or I think it's an hour or 40 minutes long. So it's probably worth watching that one if you really wanted to get into negative talk. The other problem with today's world is that, unfortunately, we have been trained to have instant can't even say the word now. Basically, we have instant chemicals called dopamine flood our body and we get things instantly. We have become addicted to this dopamine society that we live in. So when we try and change a habit, when we try and change a belief, or when we try and change a negative self-talk, it could take anywhere between about 30 days. And I think they say it's about 240. There's a lot of days that it can take to make these changes, depending on how long you've been saying these beliefs. Now, in this world, we now have Amazon that delivers next day. We have likes and comments on our social media, which gives us a hit of dopamine every single time it happens. So because we are being associated more and more with this instant gratification, I said it at last, in our world and every day, we have stopped being able to have the willpower to make changes that are long-term. We are starting to have to grab that donut instead of not for that instant hit, because we are so addicted right now to those instant hits than eat healthily to get the weight loss. For some reason, we are completely in this world changing ourselves to no longer be able to focus on long term. And if we really truly want to change, and if we really truly want to value ourselves, and we want to change our beliefs, I can tell you it can be done, but we are going to have to challenge the instant gratification we're used to. Because you are not going to change a belief in a day. I really wish I could give you sparkly magic dust, but I can't. You will change a belief with daily work on it, with journaling it every night, with having the poster up next to the bathroom, with making these little changes. And we have to remind ourselves that it's going to take us time, and that's okay, rather than chase the instant change, because things, in a year we could have a completely different life if we want it.
Totally. And you know what you said is, it's like 31st of March last year, I decided to pack in drinking for 30 days, and then it went to 60 days, then I went to 90, then I said I'd do a whole year. So I'm coming up to a whole year, and it's funny enough, somebody said to us the other day, God, Jeff, you've done a whole year without drinking. You must have really strong willpower. I says, I haven't at all. Says, it's got nothing to do with willpower. It's to do with mindset. I've reprogrammed my mind that I don't need a drink to enjoy myself. And one of the hardest things for me would be to actually go back to drinking, because I now believe that I don't really need it. I probably will when it comes to, it's actually Jubilee weekend, so I might toast the Queen's Jubilee with a glass of wine or something like that, because that'll be my year up. But I don't really feel I need it now. Now, at the very beginning, the 30 days was quite hard. The 120 days, the 6 month was easy, because I'd reprogrammed my mind to think that I don't need the alcohol. And like when I suffered from my breakdown, and I tried to take my own life, and I'd had that big financial loss, I had to reprogram my mind again that I could be successful again. I could rebuild everything again. And it was all down to positivity and listening to books. And because I went through such a big setback, I had to get myself back to that positivity again.
Yeah, and it's hard, and you have to do those little things every day and not give up when it takes a week or a month, because that's what happens. People don't see results within a week, and then it drifts off and they stop. And it's knowing that it might take a little bit longer than that to make the changes that you want to make. And also not allowing yourself to think, if you don't do it one day, you've had a hiccup.
Yeah.
You haven't failed. You've had a hiccup. If I go on a fitness thing and I go out with my friends for dinner and I happen to have a dessert with them for dinner, it was one day. As long as I don't say to myself, well, I had a dessert yesterday, I might as well have one today. Or as long as I don't say to myself, do you know what? I've had one bad day. I'll wait till Monday to start again.
Yeah.
And you start making it a life choice and a reason, like maybe being healthy is because you love yourself and you want to feel more energized, and you remind yourself of that. And if you have a bad morning, you go back to it in the afternoon. You don't wait 24 hours to start again. But too often, we either don't see results quick enough because we're used to seeing results instantly. We put out an advert on social media. We know if it works or not within 24 hours. We put a post up, we get likes and comments within minutes. I've just ordered some face wash and a water filter because I want to drink more water. It's one of my things this year. And it's going to be here. I ordered it like an hour ago and it's going to be here tomorrow. We're used to those instant results. But for mindset, for body, for the way for life changes, it's not going to be instant. But that's okay. And reminding yourself of why you're doing what you're doing, which is why I read my dream life every morning. It reminds me of why I'm doing what I'm doing every day. It reminds me of why I'm going to drink more water. It reminds me of why I'm doing the things that I'm doing, so that I don't get disheartened because I haven't seen a result.
Yep.
And in some ways, some marketing's like that. You know, you can do an advert and you can see it's failed straight away, and you might get disheartened straight away, but all you needed to do was change the headline, or all you needed to do was change the call to action. You know, there are little tiny changes that you could make which would make that a success, but we give up too quickly and then we look for the next thing. I've seen many photographers come to me and say, I want to do something. And then the week after they go to me, oh no, actually, I'm going to do a different genre because that genre didn't work, or that advert didn't work. So I need to do a whole different business. And that's not how it works. Because there's no sparkle dust in business. There's no sparkle dust with self-worth. There's no sparkle dust with photography. It is trying, seeing what doesn't work and trying something else.
That's right. And then when you find something that does work is keeping up that consistency, you know. 100%.
So I have some things here that I would like you to journal on, or literally ask yourself. So hopefully you'll be able to write this out as I talk about it. I want you to literally ask yourself, what would it be like if you, oh, they've missed some of the words out, stopped comparing yourself to others? Stopped comparing where you are to where you perceive you should be. Stopped letting the mainstream and social media images impact your self-worth. What would it be like if you stopped blaming someone or something for what happened to you in the past? What would you or your life be like if you stopped being influenced by the wrong people who don't lift you up and you let them go? What would your life or you be like if you stopped trying to be someone you are not just to please other people? If you stopped being scared that you don't deserve it or that it might all be taken away? And if you stopped letting things people say affect how you feel about who you are? What would your life and what would you be like? What would be different? That's my homework for everybody.
And would you be able to pop that slide in the comments section after the live?
Yeah, of course I can. Just remember to add the word stop, because stop's disappeared.
Great.
So yeah, no, or I'll add it into the slide and download it so that it does say stop. So yeah, I think that's it's a good thing to really look at and spend time on. You know, you don't have to do all of these at once. Pick two, do two tonight, spend, you know, half an hour on it, and then do two tomorrow or one tomorrow, whatever you can fit in. But just take some time to really think about what it would be like and what your life would be like, because I imagine it would be very different to where you are now.
And I think from them you could, you know, start by picking out the ones that really hit home with you straight away. And funny enough, a couple of those things that you've mentioned on there, I've just brought my phone up because I'm listening to a book at this moment, which I think you'd really like. And it mentions a few of this. It's a little bit spiritual. It keeps referring back to Buddhism quite a bit, but it's called The 5 Things We Cannot Change and the Happiness We Find by Embracing Them. And it's by a guy called David Richo, R-I-C-H-O. So it's The 5 Things We Cannot Change by David Richo. And it's actually free on Audible. It's a free book, so it's definitely worth checking out.
I might have to get you to put that one in the comments as well. So
yeah,
I'll
do a screen grab of it now and then pop it in.
For anybody who doesn't know, I'm currently doing a 52 books in 2022 challenge. So my aim is to basically have read an average of a book a week on various things. My current one is actually on marketing, would you believe? It's not actually on the mindset stuff, but yeah, it's been a fascinating thing to do.
So how can people find out more about what you do and work with you if they're interested in improving their mindset? And you also have a private community as well, don't you?
I do, yes. So you can head over to thephotographersmindset.com. That's my website. It's got my blog and all different areas you can access from there. Or you can pop over to @photographersmindset either on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, or Instagram. I'm everywhere. And also the hashtag Photographers Mindset as well. My YouTube does have free videos on different areas. It is being built up at the moment. It's quite exciting. I do like the YouTube and getting some stuff out on there, which is quite nice. And I usually try and do a live every couple of weeks on there as well, on something to do with mindset on there. My membership side of it, let me just see if I can. Oh, I can. On my website, if you want to click the work with me button, it actually comes into this page, which shows you a little bit about my memberships. There's a free access to the community where you get monthly accountability, 5-day mini mindset workshop, and you're part of the mindset community. You've then got the membership, which is a level up, which gives you free courses, free things like that dream life one I was talking about. That's just about to go into there. You get mindset challenges, daily, weekly accountability, and lots of other bits in there as well. So that's in there. It's only $14.99 to the end of the month, and then it does get up. And then there's the mindset course as well, which is a 6-week live course with workshop support, monthly Q&A course, attendees as well. And the other side of it is the membership and the access to the community is all included with that $5.99. So you don't pay for membership on top. You just get included into the whole thing. So that's kind of cool. So you got different levels depending on where you are in life. And
so if you're interested in that, pop into the comments. Just say, Michelle, send me the link, and then you can pop the link, return the link in the comments for your membership page, and then people can decide whether they want to sign up for the one-to-one sort of mentoring with you, or whether they want to go for the group, or whether go for the free option. So if I know that everybody works differently, so yeah, pop it in the comments, and then you can respond with the link, and then I'll also put a link to that book that I've just mentioned, that audio book, which is really, really good if you are struggling a bit with sort of feelings of self-worth and stuff like that. It's a really cool book.
Yeah. No, I'm just reading, so it's just seeing some of the comments at the sides. I shouldn't even look because I know you're reading them.
But thanks to everybody who's come along. We've had quite a few comments today, and quite a few people from around the world, from Copenhagen and from Scotland and from the US, which was absolutely fantastic. So thank you very much, Michelle, for giving us your time. Nearly an hour and 20 minutes. We've had
I'm so sorry. I didn't even see how long we've been going. So.
Absolutely fantastic. And
yeah, thank you, everyone.
And really, if anybody wants to rewatch this, all they have to do is go back to my hashtag, Creating Successful Photographers. I'll just put that on the banner, and then you can rewatch this again. So if you've just come on, you just go back to this hashtag at the end of this, click on that hashtag, Creating Successful Photographers, and then that will bring you into my hashtag stream, and then you'll see the video right from the very end. So as soon as this is finished, the video will then go into that hashtag stream, and you can rewatch it, and it's there forever. And I will upload it onto YouTube as well tomorrow morning.
And if you get questions and you're watching this in replay, if you tag me, I am more than happy, or I'll try and remember to keep an eye, because I'm always more than happy to pop on and answer any questions that people have in the replay as well. So it's not a problem. I'll just come and comment underneath for you.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Well, thanks again. And thanks, everybody. Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Christine. Thanks, Soren. And thanks, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure. And obviously, thank you very much, Michelle, for your time and you know, giving us so much information. You really have over-delivered for this webinar. It's been absolutely brilliant.
Thank you so much for having me on.
No problem. Thanks again.